Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Tuesday edition of the Mark Moses Show, as we're always broadcasting live from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. You want more information on Anidjar and Levine? Hey, just go to my website at markmosesshow.com. Now, this guy usually joins us on Mondays, but yes, Buccaneers, they played Detroit last night on Monday Night Football. Let's break it down. He's Luke Easterling with Athlon Sports. Luke, how you doing today?
Not great, Mark. It's a sad day. It's not just a loss. I mean, this feels like the morning after the Baltimore Ravens game last year when the Bucs lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in that game, and they knew, Evans was going to be out for a while, and it was a bad loss on national TV to a really good team, a chance, to kind of show that they were in that same echelon of teams. And, there are definitely some differences with last night's game. But the dark feeling for Bucs fans today is a lot less about the loss. There's a lot to get into there, but the fact that Mike Evans is probably going to be gone for the rest of the regular season, at least most of it, is the real big thing that's keeping Bucs fans down in the dumps this morning.
Yeah, I know. Coach Todd Bowles talked about it after the game. It's very sad. And the play, I mean, he almost makes this unbelievable catch.
But it was a catch. It was a catch. Don't get me started. It was a catch.
But you knew he didn't get up. And essentially on that, it wasn't like he got hit by a defensive player. No, he's just on the ground. Dude, take me to that play. How sad that was to watch as a Buccaneers guy.
Yeah, I mean, as a longtime fan of the team and to have seen his entire career and to spend time in that locker room and know the type of person he is, as well as the type of player and leader and how well respected he is in that locker room. That's what hurts. It goes beyond football, just to, you're upset for him as a human being and him as a person. And just what he means to that locker room, what he means to, obviously there's the football side of it. Not having him out on the field is obviously not going to make that offense any better, but I don't know, man. It comes for everybody, right? Father Time is undefeated. I'm turning 40 next month, and I'm already, we all know our bodies don't bounce back as well as they wish they could. And Mike has been like a superhero to Bucs fans for many, many years. And so it's just hard to watch this era, this stage of his career where his body's just not letting him do the things that he's used to doing. And it's just hard to watch it. It comes for everybody, but it doesn't make it any easier when it's your guy.
All right, I want to say something to you. And I don't know what you're going to say to this, but I saw some reports this morning where it's like, oh, no, his record streak of so many consecutive years and I go, I don't give a bleep. I just hope he's okay. I don't expect him to come back this year. I maybe, but I don't see it. Hopefully, but again, I don't. My thing is, he is a top 5, one of the best Buccaneers of all time. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no regrets. If that's the last play, look, the guy's an awesome dude. Like you're saying, I can't stress this enough. I don't care about the stats. I hope he plays again, right? But I know I'm all over the place saying this, but I hope it makes sense what I'm saying.
No, it does. There's definitely a massive gap between I hope he's okay as a person and damn, he's not going to be able to get 1,000 yards this year. There's a massive gap there. I will say this, Mike cares. I promise you he's mad about it this morning. I think he's going to be really frustrated that's kind of how the streak goes out. And he had such a hard start to the season with the hamstring and all that. So, I mean, he also had 2 catches taken away in this game. He had the 28-yarder early in the game where they gave him the pass interference, but I thought that was a catch. I thought he got a cheek down before the other cheek landed out of bounds, but they took that catch away from him. They took this catch away from him, even though the play was over before he purposefully let go of the ball after he had already been tackled on the ground. So he should have gotten both of those. It's gonna be. I think he's gonna be frustrated by the fact that the season went the way it did for him. Again, whether or not he's able to come back for the playoffs, we'll see. That would be a fun thing to see if he's able to, if this is it for him, if he's able to come back and end it with a postseason run. I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, all of that is secondary to the fact that, the Bucs community, the Tampa Bay community just loves Mike and his family as people. And we're just going to be cheering for him to make a full and swift recovery and get back to full health.
Okay, we will find out about Mike Evans, like you said, maybe January, maybe. We'll find out. All right, I think they made a mistake last night on the broadcast where late in the game they were talking about Aiden Hutchinson, who was wrecking havoc on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. And Troy and Joe were like, oh, yeah, well, he had 7 sacks last year. Didn't he have 5 in what? How many did he have last year against the Buccaneers?
It was 5. It was 5 in week 2, and the Bucs didn't have Luke Gedeke for that game. They had their right tackle out, which they also had him out for this game. They've had him out since week 2. But yeah, it was 5. Derek Thomas had 7 against the Seahawks and Dave Craig back in the 90s. That's the record, and he didn't touch that.
He was the difference maker last night. I will give him credit. Aiden Hutchinson was a man among boys. There were times they had to try to triple team him, and he made Baker Mayfield's life a living hell in that pocket. Tell me about Aiden Hutchinson, what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that was going to happen, right? We did, with Luke Gedeke out again, it was going to be similar to what we saw last year, where if you're not keeping a running back on that side or a tight end on that side to chip him over and over and give him consistent help. And I will say this, I know I'm going to complain about the referees at some point, but please understand that's not why the Bucs lost. I'm not blaming the loss on the refs. It is your responsibility to play well enough to make the officials not matter. And the Bucs didn't do that last night. The Bucs lost because Baker Mayfield had a really bad day, and they lost because a Detroit secondary that was bashed all week long, by myself included, because there were no starters healthy in that secondary. They were playing backups and 3rd and 4th string guys. They balled out last night. They played their asses off and won that game. I think a lot of credit goes to Aiden Hutchinson and that defensive front. But that secondary, just all they heard all week was how the Bucs were going to carve them up, and now Evans and Ibuka are active. They're gonna have a field day. They made Baker Mayfield look bad last night. Baker was sailing throws. He was jittery and trying to overplay like every single play. So I think the officials had a negative impact on this game? I did. I think they were really, really bad, but I say that every week, regardless of the teams. They're just bad in general. It's not a Bucs unique thing. I think they had some really bad decisions and some really bad calls and some misses. But at the end of the day, it was a bad day from Baker, and that secondary in Detroit deserves a ton of credit for how well they played, and they really set the tone for that game, and I think that's the biggest reason why we saw the result we did last night.
And it's crazy? The Bucs were in the game for 4 quarters. Yeah. It's still – because, look, it was 14-0, and then they get the turnover, get the field goal. Hey, 14-3, 11-point game. We still got to change. Even in the third quarter, still a game. Late in that fourth – didn't it feel like Detroit was like, all right, blow this. Here, you keep getting the ball. And then Baker's throwing on every play. What did you think of that fourth quarter, especially for the offense?
I think that's where my frustration with the officials is most, because the Bucs did stay in the game and the officials just continued to ensure that they couldn't do it. Like, there were moments and plays and calls. Like, how do you rule a challenge failed and then just decide to go back and look at it a second time and overturn it after you've already ruled on it? Like, whether that they got the call right. And again, I think the Cade Otton play on 4th down was really close. I didn't think it was close enough to overturn. I didn't think anything was close. It was that obvious, clear and obvious, like they always say. But to rule the challenge failed and then just decide to change it anyway, like, what are we doing here? Like, what precedent are we setting in the future for just being able to be like, I know we said it wasn't, but actually we looked at it a third time now, and we decided to change the call. And then, like you said, they get a chance to stay in the game late. That sack on Baker Mayfield where the defender clearly leg whips him to the ground and trips him, which should have been a 15-yard penalty and automatic first down. The Bucs just had these opportunities to stay in the game. And again, they didn't do enough to win. This is on the Bucs for not winning the game. But it was frustrating to see that when they did try to make plays, when they did try to stay in the game, the officials just continued to make really bad calls and bad decisions to ensure that everything they did was, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Every time they got a shot, the refs were there to make sure that the result stayed the way it was. It was frustrating.
There was the miss in the end zone late. Now, I know they're down 2 scores. I think it was to Johnson. He just overthrew him in the end. Yeah. He's wide open. I'm sorry, that goes back. The defense, give them credit, messing with the timing. But there was a point on that play I kind of felt like, and I want your thoughts. All right, no Godwin, no Evans. We've kind of just hold this together as hard as we can. But don't you feel like, all right, it's pressure time. These receivers better figure this out moving forward with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I think they will. Again, last night was it's tough to do that on the fly, and Tez Johnson had a great rookie game, because early in the game he had like multiple routes where he ran the wrong route or was in the wrong spot. Yeah, in miscommunications. But then he came through with the big touchdown late. He had a couple of big catches late in the game, and should have had a touchdown there if Baker's able to hit him. So I have all the faith in the world in these receivers to figure it out. Not to mention, you should get Jalen McMillan back at some point after the bye week. So whenever that happens, I think that's going to be huge. We'll see what Godwin's able to do when he gets back to full strength. But I think that's the exciting part. If we want to look at this, try to find a glass half full view of this game, it's, I compared it to Baltimore last year. Last year, and again, the year before, even the Bucs were 4-6 and 4-7 each of the last 2 years, and they won the division and they went to the playoffs. Right now, they're 5-2. Their only losses are to the 5-2 Eagles, the 5-2 Lions, and so I think it should be a lot easier. Obviously, again, it's hard to swallow Mike's injury and the fact that you're not going to have him the rest of the way, but this is why they drafted Emeka Egbuka. This is why they made the decisions that they did in this draft. This is why Tez Johnson, I think, is going to be such a huge pick even as a 7th rounder, because you see what he's capable of as a playmaker with the ball in his hands, and even a route runner. He's running some great routes down the field. I have nothing but faith in this team. Again, Luke Gedeke should be back at some point. They're going to get healthy. At least without Mike, and I trust Baker. I trust the rest of this team. Maybe last night pisses them off, and they go on a run, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to lock in." I still trust so much of the leadership and the mental toughness in that locker room. I trust Levante David. I trust Vita Vea. I trust Antoine Winfield Jr., Tristan Wirfs, the leadership of that locker room, even without Baker Mayfield. Like, he's just adds to it. So many of those guys in that locker room have won a Super Bowl. They've made it to the playoffs 3, 4, 5 times. And so I have so much faith in this team to look at themselves in the mirror this morning and say, hey, a lot of bad stuff last night to clean up, but we're 5-2. We're in first place in the division. We got a big one this weekend at New Orleans. This is a huge game for them right before the bye week. They got to get right. They got to go to New Orleans and dominate an inferior division opponent and set themselves up, get a better taste in their mouths going into that bye week. If they go into the bye 6-2, with some big division wins, and they got that back stretch, you got to play New England, you got to play Buffalo. But other than that, you've got Arizona and Miami and Carolina twice and Atlanta again. Like, there's that stretch down the last 6 weeks of the season is nothing but winnable games for this team. So if they go into the bye 6-2 with a nice win against New Orleans on the road Sunday, they're still going to be in great shape to do everything they want. Everything they want is still ahead for this team. And man, you're telling me they couldn't get a massive jolt if they go to the playoffs and win the division again, and Evans is able to come back healthy and even just be a part of that offense for any kind of postseason run? Imagine what that's going to do to the morale and their chances of making a big run.
Very well said. We're here at Luke Easterling. I'll just say this about the defense. They were phenomenal last night. Now, I know, okay, they gave up some big plays. They did. They lost the game. That atmosphere last night on national TV, that looked like they were going into a buzzsaw, or if we're going to go cliche, Lion's Den, if you want to do that. But another weaker team would have given up 50 points last night. I know personally, my Bears gave up 50 in that stadium earlier this year.
Right.
They came to play. They did. And in that second half, I thought they played great. They did. They kept giving Baker and that offense chances to win that game. And you know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this from Cocoa, Florida. Mr. Dean, 35 for the Buccaneers, he keeps making plays. He is having a great year for the Buccaneers. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, nothing but respect for Jamel. And I love to see it, man, because he's been so inconsistent through his 6 seasons with Tampa Bay up to this year. He was injured so much of the time and just couldn't quite figure it out. And anybody who's ever spent time in that locker room, Jamel is such a great dude, man. He's so fun. He's hilarious. He's such a great teammate. So he's just such an easy guy to root for. And so to see the season he's having, I mean, if you go look, I think Pro Football Focus, I think he's the best corner in the NFL so far this season. in terms of limiting yards, limiting quarterback rating, making big plays. I'm so happy to see him having a great season, not just because it's great for the Bucs, because he's just a good human being, and I like to see good people succeed. It makes me really happy to see that. What I'll say about the defense is last night we finally got big plays, splash plays. They got after Jared Goff. I think Todd Bowles called a hell of a game, and I think it was executed very well. The thing that is holding this defense back from truly being great is still the fundamental aspect. They got to make tackles, Mark. They have got to rally to the football and make tackles. They gave up so many yards after contact, so many yards after the catch last night because they're still not breaking down and tackling well the first time they get somebody to the ball. And obviously that's easier said than done than against a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs in particular. But that has got to get fixed. The splash plays are great. They needed them so badly to take the ball away, to get after the quarterback. That's going to be huge. But at the end of the day, if you can't tackle people, you're not going to win a lot of games. And they've got to figure out fundamentally how to make that first tackle and be better at that if they really want a chance at a championship this year.
You know what game is a big one now in hindsight? Beating the Niners. That is a big win. I mean, when I think of the contenders, and I want to get your thoughts on this. All right, just top of my head in the NFC. I don't know, all these teams in the NFC West somehow, I mean, they're all like 5-2, 3 of them outside of Arizona. The Buccaneers, Philly, right? I think Detroit is still a Super Bowl contender after last night. I know Kansas City humbled them. The Cowboys are scoring 40 points a game. I don't know what the hell they are yet. My Bears are winning. Packers are there. Is this is my question for you then. Is this thing open now where anyone could go get to that Super Bowl with all these teams?
100%. It's wide open because you can see a path for like 5 teams to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. But there's also all 5 of those teams have fatal flaws that they better fix if they want to do it, right? There's nobody's perfect, and we've seen that through the first 7 weeks of the season. We've seen the Lions falter. We've seen the Eagles not be able to move the ball somehow. We've seen, again, the Bucs last night just have a bad day from a quarterback and not be able to make tackles on defense. Like, everybody's got a problem they've got to fix if they want to be that team. All I'll say is it should make for a hell of a postseason because only 4 of those teams can get those home games. And so you're going to have it's going to be similar to last year. You're going to have some really, really good wild card teams that have a chance to go on the road and win games like we saw from Washington last year. We saw Minnesota lose in the first round. We saw Detroit lose after getting the first round bye. I think the parity in the NFC in particular is going to be really interesting to watch down the stretch because, like you said, we got 4 or 5 teams that could be that 1 seed, and all of them could lose like Detroit did last year after being the 1 seed. I think that's how strong things are on that side of the conference.
Wait, I want to update this. I apologize, Luke. So the Niners win was big, and now the Seahawks win was big for the Bucs. Hell, I still think Atlanta in week 1 was a big win. That's
going to be bigger and bigger as we get down the stretch because every division win is the most important. Every conference win is next to most important, right? Because in terms of tiebreakers and seeding and those sorts of things. So all of those wins are huge. That's why I say this weekend, everybody's going to look at the records and say, oh, the Saints, they're not much. It's never easy to go to New Orleans and win a football game. I don't care who's playing on that side of things. It's always going to be a tough out. Again, the Bucs are banged up. They're going to be pissed off coming off of this game in particular. So I think they've got a chance to do what they did in New Orleans last year, which is drop 50 because they're angry. I hope that's what happens, but I expect them to lock in mentally and physically this week, have a great week of preparation, even on a short week. They're going to go into New Orleans highly motivated to get a big win before they go into the bye week.
Let's end with this, and I appreciate coming on, Luke. You do a great job covering the NFL draft for Athlon Sports. So I'm going to say this to you right to your face. Aiden Hutchinson should have been the first pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Every week with the Jaguars, I'm like, where is Trayvon Walker? Where is he? What does he do? And he's a great guy, but that was the wrong pick at number 1. What are your thoughts in hindsight?
Yeah, I mean, I think hindsight's easy, and I think obviously they would probably change that pick. I think Trayvon Walker he was really good last year. I think we finally started to see double-digit sacks. We started to see him emerge, and you were hoping he made another big leap this year to truly become that dominant player that Aiden Hutchinson has kind of been from the moment he stepped on the field in Detroit. So it's got to be hard to watch for Jags fans for sure. I think he should have been the pick. They went upside instead of which again is always a dangerous game to play, going with a guy just because of the athletic traits. I think Hutchinson's film was already there. He was already that dominant player, and he definitely should have been the pick.
Well, remember, there was no great quarterback in that class.
Nope.
So the Jaguars wanted to trade down. They were begging people.
Nobody wanted to move up.
Yeah. So they didn't know what to. And by the way, when you see Trayvon Walker, I stood by him.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, is he going to fight Andre the Giant at WrestleMania? You cannot believe how big he is in person. But Hutchinson should have been the pick. I'm sorry. And by the way, you did not smile once in this conversation, which you usually do. That means you are a little PO today, which I don't blame you. That was a tough look. Again, the only positive I take out of last night, and there was a lot of down things if you're a Buccaneers fan, they were still in the game for 4 quarters, still had a chance. And I could see them taking on Detroit again in January. I could see a rematch of this. I could see
it for sure. And again, football is football. I'm not smiling because I'm just sad about Mike Evans, man. I genuinely love Mike. I think he's one of the greatest people to ever play the game. And I say that fully aware that there's so many great dudes in the NFL. There's so many great players. We hear way too much about the few guys that do the wrong thing in the league, and we don't pay enough attention to the fact that the vast majority of the players in the NFL are doing great things in their communities all the time. They're great with their families and all those things. Mike is everything that's right about an NFL player, both in terms of what he does on the field and the person he is off of it. So it's a sad day for Bucs fans that have grown with Mike and know him as a person. So it's well beyond football. It sucks to lose, but you're never going to win every game. It's more about the fact that we're just sad we're not going to see 13 out there for a while and maybe not ever, which is kind of the hard thing.
By the way, I have to say this because if I forget it, it'll kill me later if I don't say it. I'm not a fan of the Lions. I'm not a fan of any of these teams, the NFC North outside of mine. The Dan Campbell, where he gets to challenge every play. And like you were talking about this earlier, it felt like I was watching the WWE. Like it's a Vince McMahon storyline where he gets to challenge. He's going to get the call. He's a genius. That's where I was swearing at the television. And I know you were as well. It's terrible.
And again, this is why this is not a Bucs thing. I'm not just bitter because it went against the Bucs. This is a weekly problem. The week before, and here's the problem. The week before, it was the Lions who dealt with all that when they played the Chiefs, where everything is not going their way. And you're like, how is this happening? And what's going on? So like all the Lions fans who were in my mentions last night being like, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It sucks for everybody. It sucks for every fan of this league who can't understand that billions and billions and billions of dollars are moving through this league. And the people who keep the rules between the lines don't have a clue what they're doing half the time. That's bad for everybody, regardless of who you're rooting for. The league has a massive officiating problem structurally and hands-on wise that's just got to get fixed, or nobody's going to be able to take this product seriously. And that's the problem. It's not about, oh, my team lost because the refs were bad. It's no. Every team and every fan is losing because the process isn't consistent. The enforcement isn't consistent. It's just bad process across the league on a weekly basis, and that's just bad for everybody.
I don't like the kickoff. I don't like it one bit. I don't understand. I know you explained it to me weeks ago. I'm at the point I don't like this. Go back. Okay, I understand how you're lined up. Safety, I like that. This thing, oh, okay, you get it to 35. Oh, no, now it's at the 45. I don't like it.
I think it's too complicated. I don't know that there's a better idea that blends the player safety with trying to encourage returns. I just think they're trying to do too much. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too with the way they've designed it. And I don't know that you can do that without making it too convoluted, which is what I think is happening now. But whatever. They'll probably change it and make it worse in the offseason somehow. That's just what they'll do.
They'll give the ball at the 50-yard line for each team. His name is Luke Easterling, Athlon Sports. Thanks for your help. Have a great day. All right, buddy.
Hey, you too, Mark. Take care, bud.